And welcome to another edition of the Sideline Report. It's been far too long, and with us, it's obviously Jamie Hudson over here to my right, and also Oliver Maroney. How's it going, Jamie?
It's going really good. Can you believe the summer is already, it's done. We're done with the summer now. I've got my fall boots on. I'm ready for fall.
I know. I'm dressed in, this, and I'm still a little cold. So that's how things work now in Portland in the fall. So how's your off-season been? What have you been up to?
Good. I've been traveling a lot, which is awesome. Like, I went to Disneyland and Vegas, so yeah, it's feeling good. You were in Summer League. You were in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
That's
exciting.
For
a couple days. That was fun. It was exciting. Mm-hmm. Definitely good to see some of the Blazers and some of the different players make an impact. It's definitely interesting because you get a totally different perspective. These guys are trying to make rosters instead of already on a roster or ready to go. So it's very intriguing. It's always fun to go down there, and definitely intriguing overall as an NBA aspect of it. So
who stood out to you the most at Summer League?
I think the new addition of Layman, actually, he looks very interesting to me. I think that he's definitely athletic. He's very similar to Pat Connaughton, a lot of the different style and but movement overall, laterally, physically, mentally, a very similar player to Pat. So very interesting to see him play. I also liked Thon Maker. I thought he was wow, he's definitely a physical specimen.
Right.
He's raw, but he's definitely extremely athletic and just a lot more than what I had expected. So,
yeah, very cool. Well, talking about off-season moves, of course, we got to talk a little Festus Ezeli, Evan Turner. With Ezeli, he did just have that knee procedure with the injection, just to help with movement and everything else. And, they're saying it's not that bad. And you don't believe it is, right? But he has had health issues in the past. So for a player to come here with a knee injury to Portland, how can Blazer fans not be a little worried about that?
Definitely. I'm not. The reason I'm not worried about this whole transition and signing is that, first of all, Ezeli called the Blazers. Like, that was made almost immediately, in the press conference. When he was here, he mentioned that he called the Trailblazers and was interested in being on this roster and wanted to be on this team. I really like that aspect of Ezeli, and I don't think you're paying him less than a starting salary anyways. It's not a big issue to me. Spending $10 million a season on a guy who may have injuries and may be out for parts of the season, that's not a big deal to me. I think he brings championship pedigree. He brings an attitude, a mentality that everybody likes, it seems like. And he seems to really like this Blazers roster. And like I said, when a player calls your team and is interested in your team, that's a very good sign. And I think all of it together makes for a good piece to the Trailblazers additions here.
No, I agree. That's probably why the Blazers got him for such a good deal. He wanted to come here, and there's some knee issues there for sure. No, that's cool. What are your thoughts on Evan Turner?
So I've been saying this all offseason, is if you're going to make the Evan Turner signing, then you don't really re-sign Alan Crabbe. And for my reasoning is really just the fact that you've locked your cap space up for the next 4 or 5 seasons. Like, we really have no flexibility to do anything. Yes, the cap jumps next year. Yes, you've got a little bit of trade assets or trade possibility with guys like Mo Harkless on a team-friendly contract. But Evan Turner's another primary ball handler to add to Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. McCollum you saw as the kind of the rotational point guard, I guess you could call him, and also the starting 2 guard. And I just don't know where you put, a guy like Evan Turner making $18 million a season, $17 million a season, and then you add Alan Crabbe in there who's making just the same amount of money. That's a lot of egos and a lot of money in your backcourt when one of those guys is not going to start. So for me, it's a lot of money for, hoping that the 6-man role really pays off for you.
Yeah, that's true. What I think is going to help Alan Crabbe maybe elevate, because he does want to start, and because he is making this much money, and people talk about, well, the pressure, will it get to him? Knowing you're making as much as a starter, so it could go either way. He could either really bring it this season, or it could kind of backfire with getting that much money.
Certainly, yeah. I'm just interested to see where they all end up playing. I know that Evan Turner, there was rumblings about him being guaranteed the starting spot. That's why he came to Portland. That's why he wanted to be here kind of situation. But when you talk about Crabbe and paying him that much money, I know that was part of the deal too, is that it sounded like he was, vowing to try and get a starting spot as well.
Yeah,
So
Brooklyn was promising him
exactly.
that.
Yep. So, I mean, when you look at this Blazers roster overall, that's really the question mark, I think, of the biggest question mark of this offseason is whether or not you can contain all the egos and all the dollars that have been thrown out at these 4 players. I mean, I think there was a statistic between Dame, CJ, and Evan Turner that actually added up to the 2013-2014 cap. So, like, those 3 players alone,
It's pretty crazy.
that's a lot of money to shell out and throw at these guys. And CJ McCollum definitely earned his extension. Damian Lillard definitely earned his extension. No questions about it. But then when you get to a guy in Allen Crabbe who played, 15, 20 minutes a night for the first 20, 25, 30 games, and, you saw his increased role. He was definitely a huge part of that Golden State Warriors series. I think he was the best player efficiency-wise on the Blazers against the Golden State Warriors. So I think that was a great improvement overall from what he was. But Evan Turner and Allen Crabbe, they're going to have to figure out who's going to be the starter and, how many minutes did each of these guys get. And then you've got, other guys in this rotation as well. I mean, Connaughton, where does he stand? Like, I don't think he even gets a minute now that you've got other guys that are in there. Maybe, I do like the fact that we've got Aminu solidified at the 4 position. That's another great thing to have, is that he played very well there for the tail part of the season. But, I mean, it's just going to be really interesting. And I don't know where, like I said, the minutes between, Crabbe, Turner, Damian Lillard, and CJ McCollum, I just don't see how you can fit it all together and make sure every single one of them is happy being paid starter money, basically. What are your take on, what's your take on it?
I think that a lot of fans and people in general are so confused by this money right now, and it's because of these TV deals. So we got to remember, it's just a good time for an NBA player to get a contract right now.
Yep.
I mean, he can be coming off the bench, getting that starter money like Allen Crabbe, and I mean, it's just good for them. I don't see it really. I mean, yes, Allen Crabbe will be battling for that starting position. That's what he's gonna want to do. But also, it's just, hey, this TV deal is kicking in, and here we go.
Yeah.
I think that's important to keep in mind.
Definitely.
Because people are kind of confused, like, well, why is he getting so much money now?
Yeah.
It's just going to continue.
Yeah, and there is definitely a question to be had about disparity, too, of just pay in general. I mean, you look at guys like John Wall complaining that he's making, $10, $12 million a season when everyone else is making max money. It's just kind of, unfortunately, the luck of the draw. You've got to pay your time and just wait till that second contract kicks in to get the money. But it is especially crazy to see a guy like Allen Crabbe get as much money as he did. But good for him. I mean, that's it's out there. It's good. And I think overall it will be positive for everyone. I think Allen Crabbe, you look at his age, he's 23. I mean, he's got so much growing room. He's already grown so much as a Blazer just in the past 2 or 3 seasons. And then you just multiply that over the next 3 or 4 seasons. And hopefully you get the player that you signed up for this offseason. So I think that it's positive. There's just some question marks to be seen. I know that everybody doubts Neil Olshey. Last season we doubted him, and we thought this Blazer team may win 20, 25, 26 games. And obviously they're in the playoffs, and they do so well. So
Hey, people don't doubt him. There's
hashtag.
I know. We believe,
don't doubt him.
Trust in Olshey. That's what it is.
That's what it is. You got it down. Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, I definitely hesitate when we're talking about GM moves, specifically when it comes to Neil Olshey, just because of how many outrageously amazing moves he's made in the past 2 or 3 seasons. It's hard to doubt him.
Yeah.
But there's definitely some question marks, at least around the league. People are looking at this team like they've now got their ceiling. This is the next 3 or 4 seasons of the Blazers. Are they better than the Warriors? Are they better than the Clippers? Are they better than the Cavaliers? Are they better than, even a Thunder or a Jazz team? So I think there's a lot of question marks, but once again, we're going to see what happens specifically with Damian Lillard's leadership and Terry Stotts as well leading that kind of campaign and getting these guys all raring to go again.
Well, people now are trying to figure out, okay, what should the expectations be for this season? Because you made it to the second round of the playoffs last season. But when we talk about last season, I think people forget how it was a struggle there at the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, end of October to early December. I mean, let's see, they went 8-12.
Great.
And there was a string of, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 losses in a row. So you got to remember that it wasn't until the end of the season that the team chemistry, everything started flowing for this Blazers team. That's why I'm looking forward to the start of this season and to see the CJ McCollum, Damian Lillard duo right from the get-go. I think it's going to be so much better that way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's going to be excellent. I look at this team very similar to what the Warriors were a couple seasons ago. They have the same sort of mindset and mentality and maturity about them. A guy like CJ McCollum, a guy like Damian Lillard. Yes, they're not Steph Curry, they're not Klay Thompson, but the mentality and like the mindset of them are very similar. And what I mean by that is, last season you saw the Warriors win the NBA championship and everybody called it a fluke. Everybody called it, whatever they wanted to call it, but everybody thought that they were not going to be as good after that championship season. They weren't going to make it back to the finals. They weren't going to have as many wins. And when you look at this Blazers team, the same question marks are popping up this season, especially this offseason. Are they going to be able to even get to 44 wins this season, I'm hearing? Some people are saying 50 wins. Some people are saying, are they, 8 or 7 seed, or are they a 4 or 5 seed? I mean, they're all over the place when it comes to where people are projecting them. But I think a lot of people are fearful that the addition of Evan Turner may take away touches from other people. And, maybe the chemistry and ego won't be the same because of these additions. So it's going to be interesting because a guy like Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum are out to prove themselves every single season. And I think, like I said, they have the same mentality, the same sort of mindset as that Warriors team. I think they could be much better or much improved based on the additions they made, along with the growth that you see internally.
And you look at the schedule, it was officially released, by the way, 60 games on CSN. I had to throw that out there, Oliver. Boom. Boom. So this is exciting, too, at the end of the season, which is always nice when you have more home games than road games at the end of the season because you're tired. And you are trying to position yourself in that playoff race. So you look at March, there's 9 home games, 8 away games. But for April, 5 home games, and just one time they're going on the road. That's pretty exciting. I always think about the end of the season and how it's all going to play out,
Yeah, it'll be good. I mean, the home crowd will be definitely interested, I think. I think this year is going to be, I think it's one of the more exciting years for a Blazer fan, specifically for the fact that we're actually projected to be in the playoffs. And so, I mean, the past couple of seasons, obviously, I mean, when you go back to Nick Batum and LaMarcus Aldridge and those teams, they were projected to be in the playoffs every season. But we did have last year where we didn't expect it. Now this season we're coming in expecting it. It's going to be really intriguing to see where this team kind of folds. And I know that last season we had massive struggles away from home. Specifically when you talk about the teams that are in the lower half of the NBA. I go back all the time to that Philadelphia game. And I think that was kind of the saving grace of the season. I know that Jason Quick wrote an article about it, and, you can read it on CSNNW. But, that was one of the turning points of the season. And I think that a lot of the times when you look at these away games, I think that the Blazers are going to have a chip on their shoulder this year, out to prove people wrong once again, as they normally are. Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum have that mindset mentality, and I think it'll be intriguing to see where they end up, specifically when it comes to the latter half of the season, when they've got the home crowd behind them, when they've got more home games. That'll be definitely fun to watch.
Another positive for this season is there's only 15 back-to-back games. That's down from 20 last season and 22 the season before. Yeah. So I know the NBA has been working on that across the board so that teams don't have to have so many back-to-backs because those are really grueling.
They're rough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't even understand how you do it, specifically when you're doing away back-to-backs.
Right.
I mean, you're going from Boston to Charlotte or whatever, and you've got an overtime game that goes till 1 or 2 in the morning. You fly there, you arrive at 4 a.m., and then you've got a game the next night. Like, that's rough goings for the Blazers, specifically when you're on those back-to-backs, and you have to rely on Damian and CJ so much. Those guys, I mean, they've got to be tired. They've got to be worn out. I mean, playing 40 minutes a night, 35 minutes a night, it's definitely, it takes a toll on your body, so it's good to see that they're at 15 games instead of 20 or 22 or 24.
Definitely. For this roster now, so no Gerald Henderson. They haven't signed Chris Kaman, so that's, bye Chris Kaman.
No,
I know. He's such a character. He's really fun to be around in the locker room. Also scary. You never know what he's going to say. So obviously it's going to look a lot different, but not at the same time in my mind.
Yeah, I don't see too many differences. The one person that's going to be very interesting to watch is Evan Turner, just based on his media attention that he gets and what he's done. You know, obviously, I think there was an ET for president in 2024 or something like that. And, you know, you look at some of the Boston Celtics media coverage that they did last season, a lot of it's on Evan Turner because he's kind of the outspoken guy. Very interesting. Dresses very, I guess you could say similar to Russell Westbrook, which I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but he makes statements.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
It'll be interesting to see how that folds. And I like the added, I don't necessarily like Evan Turner the addition as much as other people do, but I do like the off-the-court edition of Evan Turner. I think that adds kind of a little more pizzazz, a little more spice to this locker room. I think it's going to be a fun time to kind of cover them, specifically when they're winning games, as always. But, you know, I think that's going to be a very, very underrated portion of this team.
Yeah, and Festus Ezeli, too.
Yeah.
He's
got all around Portland.
Yeah, he is. I know. Brooke Olzendam interviewed him a couple times, and he's like a character, but I don't know. He seems like a good interview, which is very important for media people. Yeah. We like that.
Yeah. We like the easygoing talking people. Yeah, it's a lot easier. And so that's going to be fun to watch as well. I think Ezeli is a good addition overall. Like I said, when somebody calls your team, a player specifically calls your team and is interested in coming here, whether that's even remotely true or not, I think it's always a good sign. And I think Ezeli has, obviously, he's got connections with Aminu, Nigeria basketball, but I think that he has a lot of good things to add to this team, whether or not it be on the court. So that'll be fun to watch as well. Myers Leonard obviously getting out and about in Portland.
Yeah,
seeing
he's
his
using
growth.
a Biketown bike.
Yes, I
saw
know.
that on Twitter.
Giving away a lot of different gear.
Right. And he's growing out his hair.
There you go.
So we'll see how
That's
that goes.
interesting. Yeah.
I feel like because he has like curly hair, it's just going to be like an afro kind, right?
Colin Kaepernick-esque?
Ooh.
I don't know.
Let's hope not. But
well, maybe
we'll
that
see.
could be your next hairdo next season.
I know.
That would be good.
Thinking about that. Yeah, that would be good. I had one more thing. Oh, I want to talk Noah Vonleh because he's a big question mark for me. Obviously, we saw the potential he has. He just had a procedure done on his right thigh to clear some debris. They said, it's fine. He should be back preseason, so he'll be fine. But what are your thoughts on him? Do you see him getting minutes, really?
It's hard to say. I think that Myers Leonard, as long as he conducts himself properly, plays marginally well in the preseason, I think he's got a spot on this team over a guy like Noah Vonleh. And then you add the guy, Ezeli in there, and Aminu obviously is probably going to be your starting four moving forward. It's going to be rough. I don't know if you see Noah Vonleh very much this season. If you do, it's probably because of injury, and that may be the shining moment for him to kind of break out or show people that he can definitely play in this league. I think he still has a lack of confidence.
You saw that in the summer league play.
It was a little bit dodgy. Like sometimes it's inconsistent, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what you get when you have a guy that's not confident is you get this inconsistent play. And it's a bummer because this team usually gets the most out of these guys, specifically on the bench. They're usually excited. They're usually having fun. They're usually, if anything, overconfident. They really feel like they're better than they actually are. And I think that kind of goes from Damian Lillard down to the 15th man. So when you look at Noah Vonleh, I think that he's just got to be able to get some confidence some way, somehow, some fashion. He's just got to get a better attitude playing-wise, and hopefully that transcends to going onto the court. But it is a bummer to see him obviously go through another injury or another little setback. Hopefully he gets, like I said, some rotational minutes to get back into playing shape and back into more Noah Vonleh form. I don't think we saw anything spectacular from him last season. There were moments of brilliance. Like you just see them and you're like, oh, I wish this guy could play this way the whole entire game.
Yeah.
But it definitely doesn't happen that way. I think that he just needs to basically capitalize on any of the good things that happen for him during the preseason, potentially during the season, and try and build off that.
I like what you said about, you never want any of your starters or anyone above Noah Vonleh to get hurt, but that is usually when someone can step up and they know, oh, right, this is my opportunity, I better take it.
Exactly.
So that probably would help him. But No injuries, right?
No injuries. Knock on wood. I mean, I do have a feeling, and this is just a hunch, but I have a feeling that the 4 players that the backcourt that they signed, I have a feeling that they thought that potentially if they did get an injury, then it would really seriously set back this team. And I think that's part of the reason they signed a guy like Evan Turner, is to have a third ball handler who knows the system, who knows the offense. They don't have to go out in free agency and pick up some guy that potentially hasn't played in a while or isn't fresh. So I think there's just an added element there specifically with a guy like CJ McCollum playing as many minutes as he's done. And I think it was the most running in a season, or he traveled the most distance over the season. And then Damian Lillard obviously playing 35 to 40 minutes a night. I think that you've got to have somebody there that's at least somewhat moderately capable of doing the same sort of things. And I think Evan Turner does that. So I think that is one thing that you can take away from this offseason, if anything, is they do have the depth to be able to say, all right, well, let's sit CJ for the night, get him some rest, and potentially throw Evan in there as a guy to move to. He's definitely a very good ball handler. It's going to be interesting to see how he kind of works with Dame or with CJ, depending on who they're playing with, and how those two work out. But it'll be good.
I know. I'm curious to see how Evan Turner fits with Coach Stotts' system, because Turner's kind of one of those guys that you're like, oh yeah, he hasn't lived up to all the hype and what you thought he was going to be.
You got a lot of guys like that.
Yeah, that's true. But maybe this is what he needs, Stotts' system. Like when Harkless came in, he came from a bad situation in Orlando, and it improved here in Portland.
Yeah, it's definitely been that way for Portland the past season or so. I think that they've done a pretty decent job. Obviously, Noah Vonleh, another guy who was picked really high, didn't have the greatest of seasons last season, but definitely showed some glimpses of things that he could do that nobody knew he could do. And you look at a guy, even Myers Leonard internally here, he's developed. He got a 3-point jumper pretty quickly. And I think that he's a tool that we can use as well. So I think Stotts has a very good approach to players. I think he definitely is more seen as a players coach in this league than anything else. So if there's going to be a chance for Evan Turner to really break out or have an incrementally better season than he's had in seasons prior, then this is going to be the season, specifically with Stotts. So
yeah,
that'll be good to see.
That will be. Look at you. You're not rusty at all. We haven't done a sideline report in forever, and this guy got it. Got it down.
I try.
I like
That's the way it works. But I mean, hey, I had some questions for you. Let's do some quick hits, okay?
Okay. Ready.
Guy that you most feel could be a breakout contender this season for the Blazers. Maybe didn't get a lot of minutes last season. Now he gets more of a chance, an opportunity.
I don't really see a guy. I see maybe the new guys getting a lot more minutes. I can't really think of someone on the bench who I expect to see out there more.
Yeah.
Maybe Alan Crabbe. There's potential. But I think that Evan Turner could be a really good piece.
Sure.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Cross our fingers. Yeah.
Right. I don't know. Do you have someone in mind?
I think Myers is the guy that's here.
Really?
Yeah. I think Myers is going to make leaps and bounds.
Wow.
Chalk it up.
Heard it here.
Chalk it up.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's going to be. I think he'll end up being at some point this season. I think if Mason Plumlee, Mason Plumlee is probably going to be the starting center. That's assumed, I guess. But I think that. Well, I mean, maybe not.
I don't know.
You got questions about it?
I think you have Plumlee come off the bench.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So now we're talking strategy.
I don't even see Myers playing that much. That's why I'm like surprised right now by this.
I think Myers adds the element that none of the other centers adds, which is outside shooting and the capability to open up the lanes for a guy like Evan Turner, a guy like CJ McCollum, a guy like Damian Lillard. So if you're going to, and this is just a thought, I don't know if it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Obviously, injuries have been a problem with Myers, but he was a starting center last year for the first, 10 games or whatever until he got injured. And I think that he can, like I said, add an extra element to this team that isn't already there. And I think that, you may not see it for the first 20 games, but I think if a guy like Mason Plumlee doesn't play up to par, maybe just doesn't fit well with like Evan Turner potentially on the court at the same time, then I think you see Myers Leonard inserted, and I would not be surprised one bit to see him as a starting center. Just a thought.
Okay.
Throwing it out there.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but just a thought. I have a couple different other questions, and this
Okay.
totally separate of the breakout player. Okay, so the second one would be, who's the best defender on this team?
Aminu?
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do.
Undoubtedly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who do you think?
I'd probably
Yeah,
say.
yeah, okay.
I'm just making sure.
Yeah, okay.
Then who do you
Okay.
Who do you
Seeing
think?
if we're on the same page.
So then this leads me to my next question, because I've heard C.J. McCollum working on his defense a ton. David Vanderpool's been working on a defense with him, and I talked to him earlier this offseason, and it sounds like that's his priority of the offseason. But if there's a player that you could, that's awesome. I mean, we need
the guards.
Yeah.
Defense would step it up. That'd be
definitely.
awesome.
That'd be great. And so when you look at it overall, who do you think? I mean, out of all the players that are starting potentially on this team, who needs the most work on defense, and where do we need to see the increase, I guess?
Well, definitely the guards.
Yeah.
I mean, last season, Damian Lillard came out and said that he is working on it.
Yeah.
You think about the Western Conference and how Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum are on the shorter end of the guard spectrum. And I was a short guard, so I kind of know how this goes. That sucks on defense. It's hard, and especially if you're shorter and slower, as I was. So, not that Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum are that much slower. I'm just saying they always need to get that extra step before the offensive player gets there. I mean, so going back to the Western Conference, you have to play against Steph Curry, Russell Westbrook. That's a difficult matchup most nights. So if the guard defense can step it up, then that would be a lot. I mean, we talk about pick and roll defense a lot. That's definitely needs some tending to. I don't know.
Improvement. Yeah, I think Evan Turner is another addition to that
would
piece
be that,
where I think that may help out. He's not necessarily like pacey like a Westbrook or something. He's not going to keep up with a guy like Westbrook, but his length specifically, I mean, he's got a pretty decent wingspan. He's taller. I think that's a good... I mean, the last 5 minutes of a game, potentially, where, you're neck and neck with another team, that's an X factor, a total difference maker to be able to shut down, like, the best offensive player on their team, potentially.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably where you see a lot of the defense come in. Maybe CJ, depending on what happens, I don't know. But, I mean, maybe CJ, you see CJ or Dame out, a couple minutes in the last 5 minutes of the game, potentially, to help out on defense, or maybe they do something else. I'm interested to see the strategy overall, but there is some expectations on this team, and I did want to get to this. What is your expectation on this team, and what do you think the fans' expectation is on this team? Because I'm all over the place. I don't know. Some people, it's like, yeah, they could win 46 games. It's great. That's a good season. Some people, it's like, well, now it's boom or bust. 55 wins. We got to get there, and I'm kind of in the middle. I'm kind of torn. What do you think?
I think they'll be at that 4 or 5 seed. I do think that last season, you look at it and how it was such a terrible start. I expect them to come out and have a much better start to the season.
Yeah.
Plus, you look at CJ and Dame, and you saw those tweets about them going to San Diego once again. They've got this team chemistry thing down, even with the new additions. I don't see there being much conflict with Evan Turner or anything. So I do think that they could be right where they were about last year. However, now you look at Kevin Durant going with the Warriors, and what is that going to look like?
Yeah.
And now what is Russell Westbrook? Can you imagine his numbers, what they're going to be this season when it's just him, basically?
Yeah. Not very
That's his
efficient,
mindset. I know. But I'm curious to see how the Thunder do this season.
Yeah.
I'm really intrigued to watch them and see what's going to happen.
Obviously, Northwest Division foe. We're going to have to play them a lot of times anyways. So that will be definitely kind of an interesting deal. You're a Gonzaga guy, obviously, down there as well. Should be interesting. Should be playing quite a bit, I'm assuming, because they got rid of Serge. I don't know what else you do. But that actually kind of, I mean, I'm very interested to see where this Blazers team lands. I think 4 or 5 is a pretty respectable kind of expectation. I don't think it's too high or too low. I've kind of been on the 50 win mark as like a good season. So I think that's probably, 5-6 wins more than what we had last season. That's not too shabby, specifically because they didn't do too much. Yes, you added Evan Turner. Yes, you added Azili. You also lost Henderson. So, plus and minus, a few here and there, and I don't think it's too much different from what last season was, other than the fact that you've got a year under your belt with Damian Lillard as your leader.
Yeah.
You've got C.J. McCollum broken out now, most improved player, all the rest of that, and you've got guys back healthy that warrant potentially, like a Myers Leonard. Go down the list. I mean, Dame was obviously a little bit struggling near the end of the season as well with his injuries and whatnot, but obviously Dame being the player he is, he's just going to continue playing. So that's what I like about him. But at the same token, he was definitely showing signs of wear and tear, so we want to make sure that he stays healthy throughout the season. But yeah, I think 50 wins is fair.
I agree.
What do you think about the Northwest Division?
Doable.
What do you think about that? Because obviously the Jazz got much better.
I know.
The Thunder are just, I don't know. Maybe we just talked about this.
Yeah.
And then obviously you've got Minnesota too. A little bit interesting. Tom Thibodeau, Karl Anthony Towns, Wiggins, Chris Dunn. I kind of like what they did down there, but I don't know. I mean, where do the Blazers lie in your mind?
Yeah, well, Minnesota still has a couple more years, I think, but I mean, soon enough, they are going to be a team you got to look out for. With the Jazz, I think it'll be Portland and Utah. However, I still don't count OKC out, even without Kevin Durant. But I think Utah and Portland will be battling in the division. I'm getting excited right now.
I know. It's going to be really good. I know. It's going to be fun. It's going to be really fun. And you've got the scoop still going on.
I do.
Got all that
Stuff
exactly.
Going on.
Obviously,
it's coming back.
It's going to be fun. And you guys have, by the way, I've been listening to your guys' different podcasts. Dwight James had a great podcast.
Isn't he awesome?
That's pretty fun. That's pretty good. Yeah, he's very outspoken, but I enjoy the banter and stuff like that. It's very different. It's just fun to listen to. So, yeah, a lot of new stuff coming out. The Blazers season is just, not even a month away, really. Got the preseason stuff going on, and
we got Media Day this month.
Boom, coming up pretty quickly.
You're doing a lot of stuff with Basketball Insiders.
That's
exciting.
I know. Yeah.
Good work.
I had, I've had a couple pieces posted and different things get out there. Had a piece on James Harden that was a little bit. It got a lot of buzz around it. So yeah, that's a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. A lot of different Twitter comments and remarks. So it's fun to banter back and forth with people about it. And, I'm glad to be a part of it. And Basketball Insiders treated me well. So
good.
Definitely.
Nice. I love it. Okay, well, we always say we're gonna get on a regular schedule with this, but we're busy people. No, we will. We got to figure out a calendar time and just schedule it.
Exactly.
Report.
Sideline report sometime during the season, and we've got to get. And I've been trying. We've got to get a player on. If you have a player in mind, shoot it our way, and we'll try and see what we can do. Right?
There we
go. I don't know. I was thinking about it. Yeah. We got to get somebody on here. At least to mix it up a little bit. Maybe we have to get Chris. I guess that's...
Oh, yeah. Chris Burkhart. He's the man.
I know. There you go. I guess that's like, I don't know, second fiddle to a player. I don't know.
Ooh, sorry, Chris.
Sorry, Chris. Just kidding. Just kidding. He gives me stuff all the time.
Yeah,
so it's okay.
he does. Oh, there he is!
That's right. I haven't left. I've watched this whole thing. It's been great.
Oh, man.
Hi, Chris.
I was waiting for that.
He's our producer for this show, basically. So thanks, Chris.
There you go.
Yeah, sweet. Okay.
Well, it's been a good time. It's really been fun talking basketball. Blazers basketball is rearing back up again. It's going to be enjoyable. We're going to be able to cover it. And obviously, the Sideline Report will be more of a regular occurrence, hopefully. Like once a month, we're hoping something along those lines. And anything that you guys have, questions, comments, etc., send them our way. Jamie Hudson at Jamie Hudson CSN. I am at Oliver Maroney MBA. Sorry.
There you go.
But my name is Oliver Maroney, so that works.
Perfect.
Anyways, this was a great time, and we'll have to do it again, obviously, coming up here shortly for the preseason.
Yeah. Boom. I like it.
Boom.